Hello, good morning. It's a little bit of an extra thoughts and updates for this week because today, Thursday, the 12th of December 2019, is a general election in the United Kingdom and people are being urged to go out and vote. Now, there's a couple of things that I've seen on Facebook which have really caught my eye and made me believe that Facebook is a fantastic place to get some funny stuff, but also to get some fairly good ideas and also areas of debate. The first thing was where somebody had said, are you fed up with all the political posts? Are you fed up with the whole election thing? Well then, grow up. You're not 14. Politics is about everything. It's about the street lights. It's about the roads that you drive on. It's about the work conditions that you're in. It's about how your neighbour would be treated if they fell in. It's about how your daughter would be treated if she went to university. It's about the money in your hand, the penny in your pocket. It's about all of that and so much more. It's about the type of society that we want to live in. I've always believed that as a society we should not be judged by how well people do, but how well we look after those who fall foul of life. And principally also because somebody in my Facebook lists has got in contact with an issue that their family have been struggling with in terms of addiction. And I think, do you know what? This is probably the watershed election, the one where we have the opportunity and the ability to make a difference, to make a voice heard and demonstrate that people have some kind of power if they collectively get together and they do something about it. Now, another post that I saw was a young lady who's on my Facebook page, got a great deal of time for. She's a very committed Christian. And she put up a video last night about how God and Jesus will look after us and all will be fine. Now, I don't believe in a deity. I don't believe in a God. I don't believe in putting my faith in something of that ilk, because I also believe that organised religion has not necessarily played a Christian pathway for the majority of people who've gone and visited their churches. However, there's something in there that I thought was quite interesting, was the idea of putting your faith in something. And we do put our faith in politicians now and again, and we can do, because the majority of politicians, in my experience, I'm not talking about looking at what's happening down in Westminster, but in my experience, the ones that I've met and have spoken to are just like you and I, of all political parties, and I include the Conservatives within that. I was a Conservative many, many years ago, and I have some Conservative friends still on my Facebook, some Brexiteers still on my Facebook, and they don't eat babies and they don't kick pensioners into the path of oncoming lorries. They are normal people. They simply have a view that is different from my own. It's called democracy. So I found her view very, very interesting, in the way in which faith would be used in politics. And she said, I don't know who I'm going to vote for, but I know everything's going to be okay. I'm not quite so convinced, but hey, that's what politics is about. And a post that I saw this morning from Paul Levy, who's my editor down in Fringe Review, who said that the politics of the last 2 years have been fantastic. They've been brilliant. They've shown the binary system of politics that we've had in this country for so long to be completely moribund and broke. The fact that people through coalitions have had to go and make compromises and find ways forward has been nothing short of fantastic. And I think in the Scottish Parliament, that's what I find most attractive about that. The fact that the Scottish National Party, who are a minority government, have had to get the Greens on board to get their policies through. The very first Parliament that we had was a Labour-Liberal pact, which reminiscent perhaps of the late 1970s, but they managed to do a number of things because they compromised with each other. Of course, the worst of all pacts may well be held to be the Nick Clegg, David Cameron pact that was in Westminster, that was the coalition government. So these prompted my thoughts for today, which are about go out and vote. Go out and spend time exercising your democratic right. And I don't mind, like the young lady who was talking about, it'll be all right who you vote for. But I don't believe that it is right to stay in the house. I also don't believe that it's always right to spoil your ballot paper, though I believe it is your right to exercise that option should you wish. I think that many people will spoil their ballot paper today because they don't know who it is safe to vote for. The option down in England is anybody but Corbyn or anybody but Johnson. And that's not a healthy option to have. If I discount Brexit parties and the UKIP party, because I do believe that they have fostered discord and racism within the United Kingdom over the last 5 to 6 years, they have moved politics over to the right in a way that we haven't seen, I believe, since the late 1970s, early 80s. And that has led people into strange and dangerous places. But the difficulty that we have in politics down in England, I believe, is that people want to vote Labour, but they don't like Jeremy Corbyn. They like Boris Johnson because he happens to be somebody they think he's a bit of a character, but they don't necessarily like the others, like Gove or Jacob Rees-Mogg. People don't like austerity, brought in by the Liberal Conservative coalition government to deal with the national debt, and the national debt's gone up. And 20,000 people plus 120,000, it doesn't matter if it's one or it's a 250,000 people have died because of the austerity policies that have directly brought about their fates and have fractured our society in ways that we couldn't have imagined before. Food banks in 2019, which had not been seen since the post-war years. Option of potentially rationing after Brexit because we won't have enough food to feed our country. The 5th biggest economy in the world. 5th. Scotland independent would be 14th. We are not a poor nation, but socially we are incredibly poor. So if I take UKIP and Brexit out because I don't believe either of them opt for an option that is palatable and we come to the Conservative Party, I can't vote Conservative. I can't vote Conservative because I believe that the austerity that they brought in and the way that they're attempting to deal with the national debt and the national priorities is all wrong. I do believe that once we get through Brexit, that there's a possibility we will end up with an American-style healthcare system in the United Kingdom, which will remove what was fought for in 1946 by Aneurin Bevan and a Labour government, for which we should be eternally grateful for the rest of our lives until such times as what he put in place will successfully look after our health and successfully allow us to die with some form of dignity. When in the past, in the 30s and in the 20s and way back in the early 20th century, we'd never died with any form of dignity whatsoever. So, do I vote Labour because they happened in the past to be the people who had provided all of the social policies that I would agree with? No. I'm not going to vote Labour. The problem I have with Labour in Scotland in particular is the same as we had in Westminster over the banking crisis. The Labour Party became very close to those who were seeking not to be the poor man's friend. Municipal socialism in Scotland saw the types of places like Glasgow City Council and Strathclyde Regional Council and Fife Council and Lothian Council where you didn't count the Labour vote, you weighed it. Because people voted every single year to put people in places that they didn't have to worry about whether or not they were going to be caught out, whether they were going to be exposed, whether or not they were going to be in danger of losing their seat. And the idea of smaller parties having any kind of influence, in fact, ordinary people having any kind of influence, was near to zero. And that's despite the fact that the Labour Party have a fantastic and a tremendous record in Scotland and in the United Kingdom for moving forward the types of social policies, the types of social democracy that most of us now take for granted and might not be able to take for granted in the years to come. And we have to go back into the trenches and fight for. Will I vote for the Liberal Democrats? I'm in a Liberal Democrat seat where the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Jo Swinson, is the Member of Parliament. No, I won't. I won't be voting Liberal Democrat. The reason for that is manifold. It's not just because of their responsibility for being in a coalition government, so that's austerity coming in, but also Jo Swinson has been conspicuous by her absence. She has been touring the United Kingdom, as leaders of political parties have to do, because they have more than their own constituency to attempt to convince. But when she said she would press the nuclear button without hesitation, we are a constituency not a million miles away from a nuclear installation, which would be saying I am willing to sacrifice my constituency, the lives of my constituency, for political effort and for my beliefs. And I don't think that is in any way acceptable for any leader or MP in terms of their constituency to do that. But I think it's going to be a tough call tonight. So where am I going to vote? I'm not going to vote Green, because I'm not quite as environmentally friendly as I ought to be. And although the Greens support Scottish independence, then it's not a vote that I think is going to make that much of a difference. I'm going to vote Scottish National Party. I've been a member of the party for a while now. There are policies that the Scottish National Party have that I don't agree with, that I have problems with and I have issues with. But in this election, there are two policies that I think are massively important. One, it is time now to re-examine our conscience and re-examine where we are as a fully fledged nation. Scotland is not England. England is not Scotland. I have a great love of England. I have a great love of the English. I have a great love of the Welsh, and I have a great love of Wales. I have a great love of Northern Ireland, and I have a great love of the Irish. But they are not my country. They are not the people who I believe can combine together to provide the type of help and support for our vulnerable and our ill that we as a nation can do. We compromise and give too much away in order to be part of a greater country which has not been great for so long for our vulnerable and our young and our ill and our disabled and our elderly. And I think it's about time we looked again to the people of Scotland to make a decision that in 2014 I believe got wrong. But I also believe that many put faith in a system that has served them ill. Second reason is I believe that I'm a European. Much as though I may not believe that I am British in terms of the British Isles, I believe that I have common cause with my cousins in England, in Wales, in Northern Ireland, and in the whole of Ireland, in Belgium, in France, in the Ukraine, in Estonia, in Lithuania, in Finland, and all over Europe. Because I believe that as a trading bloc and free movement of labour and the opportunities that the European afford to us, there is so much that we're about to throw away without really knowing what it was that people voted no for. So I'll be going down and I will be taking my polling card and I will be voting for the Scottish National Party. And I would urge you to go out and vote, not necessarily vote tactically. And if you are Conservative, then I would urge you to go out and vote. Have your voice being heard, because it's important. And if that's what you believe in, then democracy should be there to be a place where your voice can be heard. And if you want to vote UKIP and you want to vote Brexit Party, and if you really hold those things dear to yourself, I would urge you to go and vote as well, because we need to have an understanding of where we are as a democracy. But I'm hoping that tonight into tomorrow morning, that of the 50 odd seats in Scotland, that once again the vast majority are yellow Scottish National Party, that down south that the vast majority turn their back upon the politics of division and they start to vote positively for something that they believe is going to make a massive difference. But more importantly, what I hope for today, the greatest poll and the best example of democracy in action, is that we have the highest turnout for many, many years. So, before I pick up my pen to start my work and be employed for the day purposefully, I urge everybody, go find your polling booth, go make a cross,